right, it's 5 o'clock. Let's get started. So welcome everyone to the Developer Career Advantage webinar. So this webinar will last about an hour. And I'm going to talk about a couple of things that will interest you, I hope. We're going to talk about the challenges that you face in your software developer career. And a number of challenges and threats that are operating right now in our global environment, and how you can basically create a career strategy that will guarantee that you future-proof your career and that you also are guaranteed to have a very nice income. So we're going to talk about that. So I've got chat windows open right here. So I suggest we make this very interactive, and you guys put lots of stuff in the chat. So let's get started. If you're watching this right now, open the chat window, the Zoom chat, and put your role in the chat window. Like, what's your role? Are you a team leader? Are you a junior developer? Where are you from? Where are you calling from right now? Put some info in the chat. Let's see how it goes. So we're live streaming this, so we're not just on Zoom. So here we go. So Yoav, you're a software architect. Awesome. From Israel. Nice to meet you, man. We are live streaming this to Facebook. It's the first time I've done it, but apparently it seems to be working. So if you go to my Facebook page, you can also follow along live. So basically, you can hang out in the Zoom, or you can go to the Facebook. I've got the Facebook page open here on my mobile. So if you put any comments in Facebook, then we're going to see that as well, and we will respond accordingly. So I see a head of technology in Amsterdam, René van der Hoek. Nice to meet you, man. Golmedo, senior software developer from Argentina. Nice. Thiago, I hope I pronounced it correctly. Senior developer, team leader from Brazil. Roman, senior developer from Ukraine. Charlie, senior developer from Vancouver. Nice, lots of seniors. I like that. Okay, so we're gonna do this webinar with two hosts. So there's me, Mark Faragher. Nice to meet you. And our co-host today is the lovely Sonsoles Alonso. Sonsoles, can you introduce yourself? Your audio is very soft, very weak. So you might have to boost the volume a bit. Or, nope, still no audio. Or just, lose the headphone and use your laptop microphone and speaker. That will probably also work.
How is this?
Awesome, it's working.
Okay. Yeah, I was still muted, so that's why. So, yeah, good to see you. And thank you for having me here one more time. It's always fun to do webinars with you. I am a systemic team coach. That means that as opposed to other coaches, I do not work with individuals, but with full teams. And I can help them with a number of issues, like, for instance, how to think globally instead of, using linear thinking, how to improve leadership, how to improve the quality of the collaboration in the team, and also how all of that ties to the business and to the goal that needs to be achieved. And it's always, yeah, as I said, with the whole team.
So we're hosting this webinar together. The reason we're doing that is because we want to show you a strategy to survive in today's volatile world. And that strategy basically has two components. One component is hardcore technology. So that's where I come in. But the other part is soft skills. It's all about cultivating certain soft skills that will help you get ahead in your career. And Sonsoles is the soft skill expert here. Am I right?
Well, thank you. I suppose so. Actually, I don't understand why they are called soft skills, because they're actually quite hard to master. So, and it seems they are going to be very important in the future. So, yeah.
Yep, exactly. It's the thing is, soft skills. I'm going to call them soft skills. They They're essential. Like if you're a senior developer, I see a bunch of senior developers here in the chat, so that's nice. When you're a senior developer, soft skills are essential. Seriously, you really need them to get ahead in your career and to catch the attention of your bosses, your superiors, and make a good impression. And nobody teaches us that stuff. I remember when I was at senior developer level and even higher, even when I was CTO, I really struggled with certain soft skills because they don't teach us that stuff. It's not part of the of the skill set to become a senior developer or higher. So it's kind of like this hole in the ground that you can fall in. So I hope with this webinar that we can lift the curtain a bit and show you a couple of soft skills that no one tells you about, but that are super important to get ahead.
Perhaps before moving on, I would like to acknowledge some more participants. We have here also, this is very interesting, someone from Israel who says, I am a software architect sometimes. So that's fun. Let's see what else. We also have someone from Malaysia. Yes, I'm from Malaysia. So we have all kinds of people here from all over the place. We have Mexico as well, a principal developer. We have also someone from India. We have a software developer from Madrid. The whole world is here. Vancouver. Okay, so perhaps I would like to put your webinar into a context, just to help everyone understand what you're going to be talking about. I think basically today people are worried about two things. On the one hand, skills. What skills are going to help me future-proof my work? And the other one has to do with jobs. Which jobs will be a safe bet in the workplace of the future? So if I understand correctly, your webinar ties intensely into these two concerns that are pretty much in everyone's mind today. Is that right?
Yep, that's absolutely correct. We're going to look at both those aspects. Yep.
Okay, so just for the sake of context, let's say something also about numbers today. 3 things about numbers. The first one, 6 out of 10 occupations today, more than 30% of activities can be automatized. Number 2, the changes that we are seeing are affecting not only juniors and mediors, but also top executives. 39% of CEOs today are asking themselves what the impact of AI is going to be on their jobs and what skills they will need in order to stay in business in the future. And number 3, there are 2 things happening at the same time. On the one hand, jobs are being destroyed. By 2020, we would probably have lost 5 million jobs. And at the same time, millions of new jobs are being created in order to build this workplace of the future. So it's like there is good news and bad news. Said differently, perhaps what we have is an opportunity. And I think your webinar is exactly about this, about the opportunity that we are facing today and how to best benefit from that opportunity.
Exactly. Right?
So
these are pet subjects for me, my favorite subjects. The one is globalization. So like you're no longer competing with the people in your direct neighborhood. You're competing with the whole world. I mean, just look at this webinar. We have people from all over the place. I see Madrid, India, Argentina, Mexico, Brazil. We're from everywhere. So it's a very big market, and developing unique skills to stand out in that market is hard. Second is the wave of automation. As a software developer, we're reasonably safe in terms of job automation. Robots are going to have a tough time programming for now, so that's a good thing. But still, it's something we have to take into account because, for example, I mean, managers always believed that they were safe from automation, but now we see a wave of AI companies trying to automate management software. So this is actually software that can run a company autonomously. So it's scary stuff, If this works out, if the software doesn't screw it up and actually does a good job, then you could fire middle management. You could completely get rid of middle management in a company. But these people thought they were safe, but automation has caught up with them. So I definitely want you to be aware of these two major forces in the world right now. The relentless march of globalization and the wave of automation that is basically reconfiguring jobs all over the planet.
Okay, so yeah, so going back to the word opportunity, can we say that the secret to a bright future today is both having the flexibility and also the ability to actually reinvent ourselves continuously, and to see that as something that is going to remain a constant the coming years. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. Change is the new constant. I just made that up. So I want you to be aware of these forces, and I want you to continuously work on your career strategy. You're never going to be done. Your career strategy, it's always in flux, and you always have to well, be fluid, be creative, be intuitive, and move with the forces that apply at any given time. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Also, because in fact, many of the jobs of the future have not been created yet. They are being created as we speak.
Exactly, and that's where the opportunity is.
Exactly. Yeah. So in fact, it's like we need to build a plane while already flying that plane.
Yeah, that's a nice saying. Huh? It's like we jump off a cliff, and we're in free fall, and we quickly have to build a plane before we smash into the ground so that we can actually fly away.
Okay. So great. I'm going to give the word over to you, but before that, I would like to say something very practical, and that is that there will be a Q&A at the end of the session. So, throughout the webinar, you can just put all of the questions that you may have into the chat, and Mark will address them at the end of his talk. And I will also post a couple of links in there that can be useful for you. So, yeah, that said, go ahead, Mark. We're all looking forward to you.
Okay, let's get started. So, let me quickly move to this slide. Well, I mean, so let's quickly look at this one. So this is our co-host, Sonsoles Alonso. I'll show you this again at the end of the webinar. So this is basically some places where you can reach Sonsoles. But we'll get back to that. Let's get started with the webinar. Hold on, let me focus that window. Here we go. So this is the career path that I want you to focus on. So this is super simplified. Your career path, basically you start out as a junior and then you slowly progress your technical skills until you become a senior developer. Now, once you're senior, that doesn't mean you're done, because the next step is that you have to specialize. You have to find a niche that you can specialize in to future-proof your career. So we're going to look at a bunch of niches at the end of the webinar. But let's start by looking at the career path. So a bunch of you will be junior developers, a bunch of you will be senior developers, and a bunch of you will be in the middle of those two. So we'll call those meteor developers. But in my definition, a senior developer, that's a developer who has a team. So if you're a senior developer, I mean, you can be on your own, but I think being senior means that you have so much experience built up, so many technical skills, that you can be the leader of a development team, and the other developers respect your knowledge, and they respect your leadership of that team based on technical merits. So that's an interesting point to reach. So you can test basically if you're senior by attempting to manage a team of developers, and if you succeed, then in my book you are senior. So this also it indicates a nice pivot point in your career. While you're junior and meteor, you're just building up skills. You're building up the C# foundation. You're looking at libraries, at frameworks. You're starting to really fine-tune your technical skills. But then once you reach the senior level, you're going to have a team. So that means that you will have to focus on the specific skills that you need to be running a team. But let's start at the beginning. We'll start at junior. So if I look at developer job vacancies online, so I went online and I took a look at a bunch of job vacancies, and I looked at the requirements. what people were asking. So like a random large company, and they want a senior developer. The sort of question is, what are you supposed to be able to do if you're a senior developer? What do companies expect from you? So the first thing I said is that you are able to handle the entire software development lifecycle end to end. So, I mean, you have a team, but if you didn't have a team, you should be able to run the entire lifecycle on your own. You would probably get swamped with work, you know, but you have the skills to do this entire thing. So the entire lifecycle, I mean, it looks like this. There's basically 4 parts. First of all, you're going to need coding skills. So your coding skills in C#, for example, need to be top-notch. You have to have mastery of the foundation, of the C# foundation. So you're going to know your object-oriented programming, when to use objects, when to use inheritance, when to use interfaces, what generics actually are, how they work. You should be able to type link expressions, and you know, all these cool features that we now have in C#7. You should be able to use those. So a solid knowledge of your foundations. But then you also need to know databases, so a bit of SQL, entity framework 6. At the very least, you need to know how to work with that. Services, like the Windows Communication Framework, for example, and user interface. So this is very broad. User interface would be WPF, for example, or Universal Windows Platform, UWP. So know your XAML. It could be web-based development, know your HTML, and so on and so on and so on. So you're going to need all the skills to be able to do that. Then the next step will be testing. So to be able to do testing, you need to know your unit tests. So the unit testing framework built into Visual Studio. You need to know about test automation and test-driven development. So test-driven development is pretty awesome, where you testing is basically a central point in your entire development strategy. And basically nothing gets deployed that isn't fully tested. Then you've got your DevOps. So DevOps, quite popular the last few years. So DevOps is all about continuous integration. So you're continuously taking code from a source control system like Git. Everybody's using Git now. So you take your code from Git and you create nightly builds, and then you take those nightly builds and you deploy them on a staging environment, fully automatic, of course. And then you roll that out to production, and so on and so on. For example, I've created a CTO course. So I've got this other course for CTOs. And one of the things I teach them is to test the DevOps of their team. So basically, I teach them to go to their team and demand that the team rolls back the production environments by 2 versions. So like if you're at 1.2, I ask them to go back to 1.1 and then back to 1.0. This is a fantastic test for DevOps. Like, do you have backups of a production environment, and are you able to do quick recoveries of minor versions? So if you don't want to get caught by a CTO running this test on you, you need to have a good grasp of DevOps, so that you can create this build environment where you're continuously and automatically rolling out new versions that people can test and that can go into production. And that you also have this rollback button where you can simply roll a production version back to the last version if it turns out something doesn't work correctly. Now, finally, the skills you need as a senior developer are solid understanding of design patterns. So that means you need to really know the gang of 4 design patterns. So it's really simple, there's no excuse. It's also not many patterns, so it's fairly easy to learn them. So you need to know that. You need to know the solid principles. If you don't know any of these terms, I invite you to Google them right away. So you need to know your solid. You need to know object-oriented programming, like what I mentioned before, when to use an interface, when to use object inheritance, etc., etc. You need to know generics and cool stuff like, for example, inversion of control, IOC. So this is like a large amount of skills that are required to be a senior developer. And I did a survey 2 weeks ago, and basically I asked everyone that I knew what their biggest career challenge was. Like, what's your biggest developer career challenge. And one thing that came back time after time was the huge amount of skills that you were expected to know as a senior developer. I mean, so this is the end-to-end developer lifecycle that in this slide, and it's a lot. I mean, you're expected to know a lot of stuff. So you really need to have enough time every day to work on your skills and to learn this stuff. And another huge challenge that came out of the survey is that people don't have enough time. So they have a job, a dead-end job. It's not going anywhere. There's no time for training during work hours. So the only thing you have is like 1 hour at night to brush up on your skills. So it's a really nasty situation to be in, because then you're stuck. Your job isn't taking your career anywhere, and you have so little time in your free time to work on your skills that your career isn't progressing fast enough to take you to a better place. So the first thing I want to show you is time-saving tricks. So little tricks that you can use to save time, to speed up your learning. So let's take a look at them. So here are 3 time-saving tips that you can use to do more in less time, basically. So first of all, career path at the top. What I want you to do is focus, have a laser focus on your career path. So decide, where would you like to be in a couple of years? If you're a media developer right now and you want to become senior, I mean, you probably want to become senior because it's a nicer job. What kind of senior? Are you focused on the, do you want to be in mobile development? Do you want to be a senior developer in mobile development? Then focus on that, laser focus, which means that if you look at web development, desktop web development, like platforms like Electron that you can use to create desktop apps, ignore it, because you're on a path to become a mobile developer, mobile senior developer. So that particular library, that framework, is outside of your scope. I can give you an example. When I was learning, when I was studying my .NET, my C#, Silverlight was released. So that's like a long time ago. I've been in this business for ages. When Silverlight was released, you know what I did? I completely ignored it. I never, ever looked at Silverlight at all, because I decided that this whole market of running lightweight XAML applications in a browser, that wasn't relevant for my career. I only wanted to focus on enterprise applications and desktop user interfaces. So I completely ignored Silverlight. And you might have read that a little while ago, Microsoft end-of-lifed Silverlight. So it's gone. So there was this whole framework that rose up, you know, and that was popular for a while and then disappeared. I've never seen it. I couldn't program a Silverlight app at all. I would have to start studying from zero. And that's fine, you know. So don't be afraid to ignore things. Don't be afraid to ignore frameworks, libraries, theoretical stuff that is outside of the career path that you're following. That's one. So the second thing that I'd like you to do is specialize. So I already mentioned mobile development. Pick a specialization that you like. What field, what development field would you like to be active in? Would you like to be active in mobile development, building mobile apps? I mean, that's super cool. Web apps, cool one-page web applications, you know, in Node.js or Angular or whatever. You focus on that. You can focus on being a back office developer, a backend developer. So you could build microservice architectures, for example, and so on and so on. So focus on a specialization, and then, here's the trick, only learn one platform within that specialization. So for example, let's say you want to become a database developer. So you're the backend guy who knows databases and who can connect databases to a .NET architecture. So, I mean, that works. That's a specialization. Pick one database. So don't go wide. Don't go saying, okay, I'm going to do MySQL and PostgreSQL and SQL Server and Oracle and Redis and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's too wide. Focus on one particular thing. Because the thing is, I did Microsoft SQL Server and I did Oracle. You wouldn't believe how similar they are. The SQL dialect is slightly different between the two, but when you know SQL Server, then you also know Oracle. I mean, you would have to learn the dialects and you would have to learn the things that work in Oracle and that don't work in Oracle, but you can easily pick that up in 1 or 2 weeks' time. It's no big deal. So don't be afraid to specialize. Don't be afraid to pick one specific thing. If you're looking at, I don't know, object relational mappers in your middleware layer, you're a middleware developer, pick Entity Framework. So focus on Entity Framework, really learn that, and then don't worry that you've never seen nhibernate. Doesn't matter. nhibernate has a completely different API than Entity Framework, but it does the same thing. It's an ORM, it's an object relational mapper. So the principles are the same. So when you go into a new project and you're specialized in Entity Framework, and all of a sudden they ask you to work on nhibernate, no big deal. You look at the API, study it for 1 week, study it for 2 weeks, and you will understand it. So specialize in one single thing within the domain that interests you. So that's going to save you a ton of time. And don't worry that you have gaps in your knowledge. I have, you wouldn't believe how many gaps I have in my knowledge. I mean, I know the .NET framework inside and out, but there are whole areas I've never looked at. Like, for example, Silverlight. It doesn't matter. It's okay.
So actually, Mark, sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah, go ahead.
Basically, your approach to career development is very similar to that of an entrepreneur. You need to focus on your niche and ignore the rest, and that is actually the key to your success. You don't have to pretend to know everything. You just need to do the thing that you are supposed to do, and only that.
Exactly.
Which reminds me also of focusing actually on the 20% of things that is really going to make a difference, and ignoring the rest.
Yeah,
sorry?
Is that the Pareto principle?
I'm not sure, but there is this role of, for time management, like focus only on the things that are going to give you the maximum result. So this is what I'm hearing continuously in what you're saying.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. You look at the skills that you're supposed to know to do the development lifecycle end to end, and it's 100%. And the trick is, you can still get hired in a senior developer position if you only know 20%. If you know strategic bits of 20% scattered on that whole range of 100%. Then
Now this is also reminding me of Covey, who said, focus on doing the right things instead of doing things right. I
love that. Yeah, that's a very good one. And I see in the chat, Sebastian has just confirmed that it's the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
All right, thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Sebastian. Nice work, man.
Where are you from, by the way? Since we have so many countries here.
It's probably higher up in the chat.
It's higher up in the chat. I'm going to search for that.
Argentina, here we go. You live in Madrid. That's awesome. We are broadcasting this from Barcelona right now, so you're pretty close to us. All right, so let me show you the last one. So this is the last time saver, and that is to generalize. So this is kind of funny. When I was making this slide, I was going like, okay, I'm going to tell people to specialize, and then I'm going to tell them to generalize. But I'll explain what I mean. So what I mean is, imagine that there is this essential part of the developer lifecycle, and you simply have no time to learn it. It's like impossible. You have no time to learn it. That's okay. If you are in that situation, the only thing you need to do is learn the general principles. Learn the general principles. Then, should you have time later in your career, you can learn the implementation details. But you can start with the general principles. And I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, I was working in Silicon Valley. I had a really nice job. We were doing an AI, a machine learning project in the solar industry. And I had a team. I had a senior developer, and we had a junior developer in the team. And it was a ton of fun. It was super nice. But here's the thing. We were creating this DevOps environment with continuous integration and continuous builds, and we were using Visual Studio. So you've got this Visual Studio in Azure version, the online Visual Studio, and it can do nightly builds for you. And it's a super nice environment. It will automatically check out code, do the builds, run the unit tests, deploy it, and you can do quick rollbacks. It was it was exactly what we wanted. Here's the thing. My senior developer did not know DevOps. Can you imagine that? He did not know DevOps. And this is an essential part of the developer lifecycle. But here's the thing. He didn't know how to do it in Visual Studio, but he did understand the principles behind DevOps. He knew exactly what he wanted to have at the end of the week. He just couldn't do it himself. Now, we had a junior developer who was building the UI, the front end for us, and he actually knew how to create this DevOps environment in Visual Studio. So what happened is that my senior developer just delegated the task to the junior developer, and he said, here's the DevOps environment I want you to build in Visual Studio. And at the end of the week, we had it, and it worked beautifully. So everything was fine. I wasn't worried because I was the CTO in that role. So I basically asked my senior developer, give me this. And he was able to deliver. He couldn't do it himself, but he had someone who could do it. And he knew what he wanted. So when the junior developer delivered, he could look at it and say, this is perfect, or I want you to change this and this and this. That's the trick you can use when you're a senior developer. If you do not know an essential thing like test-driven development, I mean, I'm not fully up to speed on test-driven development. I know the general principles behind it, but I've never run a large project that was entirely focused on test-driven development. But I know the principles, so I could do the project as long as I have someone in my team who is able to do the technical work. And as a senior developer, you can do that. You can rely on someone else to fill in those gaps in your implementation knowledge. So the thing I want you to have is principle knowledge, general principle knowledge of the entire development cycle. I want you to understand the principles behind it, why we create a DevOps environment, why we create a full development cycle in a certain way, and what the ideas are behind that. But if you are not able to implement it yourself, no problem, no problem. So remember those tips. Focus on your career path, specialize on one specific thing within the specializations, and if you are unable to learn the implementation of a particular thing, just focus on the general principles instead. So, super important.
So, actually, what you are saying is that it is not a matter of or, but a matter of and. You need to be both a specialist and also a generalist. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think I would rephrase it and say, you cannot be a specialist along the full breadth of your knowledge. It's simply not possible because it's too much knowledge. It can't be done anymore.
Yeah.
So you can be a generalist along the entire breadth of knowledge, and you can be a specialist in certain areas, and that's fine.
Yeah, there's a nice book actually by a Danish author. His name is Kenneth Mikkelsen, and he calls this phenomenon being a neo-generalist. Yeah, so that might be interesting for some of you to read, because I think it ties perfectly into what you are saying. Yeah,
it's a good tip. It's a good tip. So I'm seeing a comment from Chihu in the chat, leveraging the diversity of skills, and it's exactly that. Yeah, exactly.
So he says also it's a team sport in the dynamic IT environment. I was just wondering, how many of you have a team? Can you put that in the chat, perhaps?
Yeah, awesome. Put like hashtag I have a team. I have a team in the chat if you have a team. And so that's anywhere from one other person to 100, you know. Maybe put your team size in there as well. That's also cool.
You have, okay, someone had a team.
Yo, I've had a team. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, 10 people, 5 people, nice, nice, keep going. So Yoav, no team yet, okay. 6, 4, 5. Yeah. So I guess it's mostly, 50 from Renee.
Wow.
Nice work, Renee. Yeah, 4 and 5. I was going to say it's all between 1 and 10, but Renee beat me to it.
I think you mean Renze van der Hoek.
7 onside, 5 offshore. Nice. Offshore teams. Yeah, that's also a skill to run them. Sorry, I keep saying Renee. Renze. My apologies. All right, very cool. Okay, so a lot of you have teams. So yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's move on to my next slide. So looking at specializations, I'm just putting a few specializations out here. These are areas that you can focus on as a senior developer. And it's perfectly okay to have this laser focus on one of these specializations and, kind of ignore the others. Doesn't mean that you can't do anything in those other specializations, but it doesn't have to be your main focus. So if you look at architectures, software architectures, layered architectures, you usually have your front-end layer, your middleware layer, and your back-end layer. You can specialize in any of those layers because the skills you need to create these layers are quite different. So if you're a front-end developer, then you're going to be fully up to speed on user interface technology and design patterns like MVC or MVVM. User interface design patterns. If you're a middleware developer, then you're probably going to be up to speed on object relational mappers. So entity framework, nhibernate, maybe workflow engines. You often see workflow engines in the middleware, rule-based engines, stuff like that. So the work I did in San Francisco 2 years ago, my specialization was middleware. So I had my team, but I was focused on the middleware and I had other people for the front end and the back end. If you're a backend developer, then you're going to be focusing on databases. You might be focusing on services. It's kind of up to debate if a service should reside in the backend or in the middle layer of an architecture. So you can focus on Windows Communication Framework, services, SOAP, REST, etc., etc. If you're a mobile developer, you're going to be looking at mobile apps. Platforms for building mobile apps, and then you can pick your platform like iOS or Android. I can't say Windows Phone because they appear to be dead. So iOS or Android. And you can specialize in databases because databases is pretty large nowadays. It used to be, SQL, SQL Server, Oracle, but now we have big data. So now you can specialize on big data databases. So those would be key value stores like Redis and the really awesome huge databases like Hadoop. And again, that's a wonderful specialization. If you are a Hadoop expert, your career is safe. You're going to be fine. So again, let's put some stuff in the chat. Put your specialization in the chat. Even if it's not in this list, if it's something else, put in the chat what your specialization is in software development. And if you don't have a specialization, just put in general. So like you're all round. So what are you guys? Here we go. Charlie is general. I can't pronounce the next one, backend developer. Yoav is distributed systems. Nice, nice, nice. That's cool. General, full stack general, yep. Desktop applications, cool. UWP, that's nice. That's nice. Sebastian. Nelson, full stack. Chihu, general. Carl, general. Fireman. You're a fireman. I love that. I know exactly what you mean.
I think I know too.
That's an awesome specialization. Yeah, Thiago, backend developer. Hector is a backend database developer. Smart contracts, SJ, nice. Nice, nice, nice. All right, so you guys have your specialization. That's pretty good. That's pretty cool. So this is an important step to future-proof your career. Like focus on your specialization go deep in a specialization and don't worry too much about the other stuff. So like Hector and Thiago, you guys are backend developers. So you're probably going to be a bit light on front-end development, like UWP, the Universal Windows Platform. It's quite a unique skill to be able to build those Windows 10 apps. You can safely ignore that because it's outside of your specialization. Should you ever be in a project where you need to build this desktop application, you can decide to either quickly learn the skill based on the big foundational framework that you've already built up, the foundational skills, or delegate it to someone on your team. Yoav, building 70 courses in Udemy is not a good practice. I guess it depends on the courses. Buying 70 courses depends on the quality of the courses. Udemy is very hit or miss, unfortunately. There are some great teachers on Udemy, and there are some terrible teachers on Udemy. I've got a bunch of Udemy courses for mobile application development, which are pretty good. I actually, you might have seen this, there's this game developer course, build 20 games in Unity. I bought that one, it's really good. But there's so much bad courses out there. So it kind of depends on the ones you got. Charlie, Windows Forms. I love it, man, fantastic. Actually, I am building Windows Forms applications. When I demonstrate machine learning apps and I need a quick user interface, in the past I would actually create Windows Forms apps to, as an interface to my machine learning programs. Because it's so easy to demonstrate them to someone else. It will always work. I've recently moved to WPF, to XAML, but up to, I think, 3 or 4 months ago, I actually was using Windows Forms. So I'm in the trenches with you, man. Okay, so these are specializations. So you have your specializations. Now, for everybody who said general is nice, but keep in mind, globalization is real, and it's intense, and it's coming, and you can't stop it. So as a general software developer, you were competing with the entire world, everybody else who is a general software developer. So I invite you to start looking around for possible specializations that you can focus on. Because the advantage is a specialization that's less stuff to learn. You will master a specialization more quicker. And if your skills are demonstrably higher than other software developers, then you can still carve out a career within that specialization. So start looking for something to focus on. That would be my advice. All right, moving on. Looking at the job vacancies of a senior developer. So I've showed you this first sentence. You know the developer lifecycle end to end, which is all fine and good, but there was more text. And this is the second part of the text. So companies, when they hire a senior developer, what they expect you to do is you are able to lead others, or others look to you for guidance. So that's interesting. So that means if you're a senior developer, people expect you to have a team, to be able that you can manage that team, and that the team actually looks up to you. So to do that, you can do that purely on technical skills. And in fact, a lot of us developers try to do that in our career, where I've had that for ages. I was a developer for fairly long. I started in 1995. And I moved to the .NET framework in 2001. So I had large areas in my career, large stretches in my career where I had a team, and the team would look up to me based on my skills, because I just knew C# in and out, I knew .NET in and out. So I had all the answers, and that that commanded respect. But looking back at my career, I can tell you right now, that's not enough. You cannot run a team on technical merit alone. What you're going to need is leadership skills. And so this is the thing that no one ever tells you. You reach the senior developer level, and so you have your team, you have your technical skill sets, you can run the developer cycle, you know the C# in and out, you know the .NET framework in and out, you have your specialization, you build apps, yada, 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 all good. But your bosses, your executives, they actually secretly want you to display leadership skills. Now, the skills I put here on this slide, so these are the skills that I took them from a Forbes article. So this Forbes did like a survey among companies, among executives, and they found the top 10 leadership skills, top 10 attributes of an awesome leader. So I put them in here for you. You're gonna have to start working on these skills. If you have these already, awesome, you're done. But if you don't, then I urge you to start developing your soft skills. And here's the thing, you don't have to wait until you're a senior developer. If you're junior or meteor, if you don't have a team yet, start working on these leadership skills right now, because they're super important. Once you hit the senior level, people expect you to have them. And if you don't have them, it's a huge handicap. I mentioned the survey that I did 2 weeks ago. You know, what's the biggest challenge in your software developer career? The third challenge that people mentioned was that they had trouble managing their team. They would delegate tasks to the team, and the team would either not do them incorrectly, or someone in the team would stand up and pretend to be the boss. So that would be these characters, you know, that you have someone in your team who secretly wants to be senior dev and can't really handle the fact that they're not at that level yet. So you assign a task to the team, and then this person stands up and says, "Oh, I'm gonna micromanage everyone so that we're gonna do this." And it's absolutely terrible for productivity. It completely kills the productivity and the well-being in your team. So being able to lead a team successfully, that's so important. You wouldn't believe. And all the executives are looking at you, and they're looking for these skills. So if you have these skills and you do a project in a large organization, trust me, the CTO is going to notice you. The CTO is going to look at you and think, wow, you know, this person has fast-track potential. Shoot, Sonsoles, what do you want to say?
No, I want to say that there is another reason why it is important to develop leadership skills, and that is because unless you are planning on becoming a robot, you know, leadership is the one thing, you know, because there is leadership and soft skills, they are very much connected. So unless you're planning on becoming a robot, this is going to be super important. This is one of the things that is going to help you, you know, have a job the coming years. And interestingly enough, I hear from a lot of people, even top executives, that they are given you know, responsibilities, leadership responsibilities, without actually having had any training. So it takes them, yeah, totally by surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was CTO, one of my biggest challenges was delegation, and no one taught me delegation. So I had my team, I had the technology that we had to build, and in the end, I had to do most of the programming because I just couldn't delegate it to my team. It turned into a complete disaster.
Yeah, when things go well, delegation is supposed to be actually a junior thing. You learn that when you're a junior. But interestingly enough, I see that in many organizations that even more senior managers don't have those skills, delegation skills. So it's what you say, people become a bit despotic, you know, I am going to micromanage this team, tell them exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it and when they need to do it. And, you know, from there, things get toxic, and then there's a lot of conflict in the team. And, well, you know how it happens.
Exactly. So what you want is that your team runs as autonomous as possible. So you want to be able to tell them the requirements, the overall guidelines. So basically the design pattern within which you'll need to code. But then the more autonomous the team is, the better. So if the team starts moving tasks around, for example, because someone is just better at a certain task than someone else, and you don't have to do that yourself, the team does it for you, that's absolutely fantastic. If the team runs into a problem and they go to Google and they start searching for the solution, and then one team member starts explaining to the other team member how this new concept works, that's fantastic, because then they become self-training. So you want to have a high degree of autonomy and creativity within your team. And the reason you do that is with good leadership.
Exactly. Yeah. You stole my words. I was going to say exactly the same thing. Now, a good leader is indeed someone who gives his team, his or her team, enough autonomy.
Yeah. So I'm reading in the chat, UA Deep 200, awesome name. He says, or she says, I don't know, accountability and the ability to hold your team accountable is important as well. Absolutely true. Yeah.
Definitely, but what happens often is that it is not clear either for the leader or for the team who has authority to do what, or what the expectations are. So there is a lot of confusion, actually a lot of lack of knowledge when it comes to those things. So when people don't know what is expected to them, it is also very hard to hold them accountable. So another thing that a good leader does, besides giving the team enough autonomy, is also, sorry, I lost my train of thought because I saw another question coming in.
Yeah. I was looking at that too. Yeah?
Oh, we were talking about accountability. Yeah, so another quality of a good leader is being deliberately clear about what expectations are. Because when there is clarity, you know, then things are very easy. It's much easier to communicate. Otherwise, communication becomes very toxic. And
Yep.
when things become toxic, there is a lot of unhappiness, actually. And when there is unhappiness, careers can be destroyed. So it is actually a big issue. Yeah, so delegation and communication are like big in teams.
The top two skills, basically. So you see, I've underlined delegate, but communication is also super important.
Yes.
So you see, let's just look at the whole list. So we have delegation and communication. Honesty is important. You have to be honest. You need to be confident. You have to radiate confidence. This is especially important for your bosses because they will give you an assignment and they want to see the confidence. Like, I'm on it. It's under control. That's, you know, us company founders or CTOs, what we want to hear is, it's under control, don't worry about it. Those words are music in our ears. So if you have the confidence and the commitment to back that up, then that's absolutely awesome. Positive attitude, also very important because, you know, it's tech, stuff doesn't work, unexpected things happen on a daily basis, your code catches fire once a week, you know, all kinds of stuff happens and it's just life. So what executives are looking for is a positive attitude. So when bad stuff happens, don't panic, don't pull your hair out. Again, I'm not good at that. I tend to panic when things go wrong. You don't want that. When things go wrong, you want to have a positive attitude. You say, okay, we have this problem. We're on it. We're going to check it out. Eventually, we will find a solution because as a developer, there's always a solution. You search for a week, you search for 4 weeks, but there is always something that you can do. Even if something is technically impossible, you can adjust the requirements and make it technically possible. So there's always a lever or a knob somewhere that you can turn to solve a particular problem. So have a positive attitude. Don't panic when something goes wrong because you will find a solution eventually. And finding a solution requires creativity, so that's awesome to have too. And you need a bit of intuition to kind of, you know, sense where to start to tackle complicated problems. You need the ability to inspire your team, and you need to be flexible. So these are important skills to have as a leader. And so Sonsoles, I think you actually have something for people who, no, let's start with something else. Put in the chat what your biggest leadership skill challenge is. So from this list, anything that you really struggle with, that you think, okay, that's my worst skill, my worst soft skill right now. So just put it in the chat so we can see if there's like a majority for a certain skill. So I'll kick it off. I'll lead by example. So delegation, I absolutely suck at delegation. So that's my contribution. Intuition, yeah. Slacking off. I hope you mean the team slacking off and not you slacking off. Commitment, yeah, nice. Ability to delegate, yeah, I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Managing your boss, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, delegate and confidence. Delegate and intuition. Intuition, Amit, that comes with skills. The more skills you build up around software development, the more you will develop your intuition. So that'll come. Delegation, Renzo, yes, I feel your pain. Delegation is so hard. Oh my God. Okay, so help is at hand because Sonsoles actually has an awesome tool to help us all with delegation. Sonsoles, can you say something about that?
Yes. Well, it's a tool and it's also a mini class. The thing is, as I said, when things go well, people learn how to delegate when they are juniors, but it usually goes differently, and people, go up in the hierarchy still not knowing how to do it. So I love teaching live. So I have a live class in which I come together with a group, and we are together for a couple of hours, and I teach them, what delegation is actually about and how to do it. And then during the second part of the class, while being there together online, we also learn to make delegation boards. And there are many different ways of doing this. So we also tap into everyone's creativity to make, a delegation system that works for, each specific person. So yeah. That's one of the things that I do, and I have a similar class for communication because when I look at teams, there is often a lot of conflict, and conflict that ends badly. And what most people don't know is that if you are able to handle conflict skillfully, here is another important skill: being able to handle conflict. When you're able to do that, it can be actually very transformative for the team, and it can lead to a lot of creativity and to a lot of growth. So I have another live class also with a group in which, I teach the basics of healthy communication and also the antidotes to toxic communication, because, you need to be aware of both. And then during the second part of the class, we practice together, with cases. So yeah. Thank you for asking.
So you're going to put a link in the chat later on, so you guys can click on the link. It'll take you to a messenger page where you can basically indicate that you're interested in this particular thing. So in this delegation thing, I've seen the delegation board that Sonsoles teaches. It's awesome, seriously. I wish I had it in my startups. In my second startup, I really wrestled with delegation because I had a team with too many juniors, and in the end, I had to do everything myself because the juniors just weren't able to code the way I wanted to. But in the end, it turned out it was all confusion about how much liberties they actually had. They were completely confused about what they could and couldn't do, and what I would accept and what I wouldn't accept. And this delegation board, it controls delegation. It's basically a communication tool that tells your team exactly how much freedom they have in the delegation of a specific task. It's an awesome tool. It's really, really going to help you delegating. I'm looking at Carl's message in the chat here. Carl says, understanding that by delegating things, it means it may be done in a way different to my own, and accepting that. That's exactly what I struggled with in my startup. The delegation board fixes this. It's a tool to get that specific thing under control. So
tying into that is the fact that we're speaking about leadership. In the past, there was a person who knew everything and who would tell everyone else what needed to happen and how. But today, because there is so much knowledge around, we are speaking about knowledge workers. People really want autonomy. People want to achieve mastery, and they want to be relevant in the organization. And that means, indeed, as he is saying, that it is important for the health of the team, and in order to achieve, great things, to tap into all those different ways of doing things. And that something is done in a different way than how I would do it, doesn't matter. If it gets done, it gets done. So that's another advantage of the board, and also of working on the communication. As I said in the beginning, when you asked me what do you do, I work on improving the quality of the collaboration. Yeah? So if you work on delegation, you improve the quality of the collaboration. If you work on communication, you improve the quality of the collaboration. And something that is also included in communication is, emotional management, which is basically how am I aware of what I am doing is affecting others, and also social intelligence. How is what others are doing influencing me, and what is the dialogue happening because of all of that? So yeah.
It reminds me of one of the survey answers I got. One person in my survey said his biggest challenge was communicating to his team and have the team understand what he was saying. Because his problem was constantly, he would explain what he wanted and he would get something completely different because the team just didn't understand. Yeah, Charlie says dealing and resolving conflicts, dealing with and resolving conflicts. Yeah, yes. That's 80% communication. Yeah. So, Sonsoles, you said at the beginning that biggest challenges are robots, basically. So leadership is our solution to survive the era of the robots. Now,
it's one of the solutions, I think.
Now, of course, that's not going to work if we have a robot in this webinar. So. If there are any robots in this webinar, please put #robot in the chat. I'm going to eject you from the chat because we don't want to teach robots leadership skills because that would be terrible.
Yeah, because we want you actually to succeed, not robots.
Exactly. But I mean, seriously, I work with machine learning on a daily basis, and leadership to code that in AI, in artificial intelligence, it's super difficult. I'm not going to guarantee you that it will be impossible forever. Eventually, there will be a point where we can actually build software that can lead a team, but it's probably going to take a few decades before we reach that point because leadership is really hard. So for now, focus on your leadership skills, and that will also protect your job from automation. Neil, saying no effectively. I like that. Saying no is difficult. To learn that, you need to cultivate strong boundaries. And it's also something you could address by working on your communication. So if we look at leadership skills, and we go back to the time-saving tips, the one I underlined, delegation. Delegation is your superpower to help you save time. Because if you're a senior developer and you have a team, 9 times out of 10, your team is not working efficiently. Your team is not at the optimal performance level that it could be at. There's a whole bunch of things that can go that can reduce the efficiency of your team. Think about skill levels. Think about required training. Think about how much freedom the team members think that they have when implementing tasks. Maybe a junior team member, you assigned a task to them a month ago, and they delivered something and it was completely wrong. And your communication wasn't right. You were like, what the hell were you doing there? Then from then on, your junior team member might be intimidated and will be afraid to go to work at 100% or 120% above and beyond to give you what you want. They will take a step back. So you can do a lot in efficient delegation to get your team to top performance. And the thing is, as a senior, if your team is at top performance, then your team is going to do most of the heavy lifting. If you have a team of 5 members, so there's 6 of you, there's you, the senior, and your 5 team members, then your team will do 5/6 of all work per week. 5/6, that's a lot. So even if your entire week consists of leadership, team training, delegation, and forward planning, and you're not doing any coding, then still 5/6 of the work, 5/6 of the total team capacity is being done week after week. That's awesome. So you don't actually have to code as a senior developer. If you are super good at delegating and your team is large enough, you can actually get away with not coding. Now, I'm not saying you should do that because then your coding skills will get stale, but imagine that you have so much time, so much free time in your career that you can actually pick and choose the coding tasks that you're going to do. So you focus on the coding tasks that take you further towards your specialization, and everything else you give to your team. And you know that your team works at top performance. That's awesome. So if you're a senior developer and you're overwhelmed with work and it's just too much and every day you're just coding. I mean, I've been there. I've had that many times. It's always delegation. It's always, you have a team and the team isn't helping you relieve the load. And I mean, that's what your team is for. They should relieve you of that load and do a lot of the work themselves. The smarter you make your team, the easier your job will become. So I like to say that as a senior developer, you only have one responsibility, and that is to make your team a success. So forget what you do. Your team has to be a success. That's your main responsibility. So delegation is a superpower, and if you wield that well, then you will have a lot more free time than you have now. All right, let's move on. I'm going to teach you a concept. We're almost at the end of the webinar. I'm going to teach you a concept that will take you beyond senior developer. So if you want to take your career even further than senior developer, yes, that's possible, then this is a very interesting concept. This is the blue ocean versus the red ocean. So this is a marketing term, but I've appropriated it for careers. So blue ocean, red ocean, it means it's an ocean with sharks. And so the sharks, that's us. We are the software developers, and the fish are the projects, the available projects. So there's a lot of developers. There's a lot of us, in the sea swimming around, and there's a lot of projects in the sea. And we sharks, we want to eat the fish. So there's two types of oceans that we can have. There's one ocean which is absolutely packed with fish, but it's also packed with sharks. So it's a complete chaos of sharks, rubbing against each other, fighting each other, trying to eat the fish. So that's a red ocean because there's blood everywhere. Now, the other part is the blue ocean. The blue ocean is an ocean where there are very few sharks. So there's still the same amount of fish, but there are almost no sharks. So the sharks are happy. They're just swimming around, and there is like this overwhelming amount of fish. And you don't have to do any work. You can just relax and grab a fish when you feel peckish, and chill out when you want to rest, and everything is fine. So if we map that to careers, then a red ocean would be a field, a specialization, a niche with extremely high competition, extremely high level of competition. A blue ocean is a niche with extremely low competition. And remember globalization. No matter where you are competing with software developers from all over the world. If you're in Mexico, you're competing with Chinese software developers. If you're in India, you're competing with software developers from Vietnam. I mean, it's all global nowadays. So it's very easy to find yourself in a red ocean. A red ocean would be older, more established IT specializations, like backend developer. I mean, backend developer that exists since, I remember 1990, and yes, I'm that old. 1990, we had Windows DNA. I mean, I don't know if you remember that. Bill Gates had this vision of, enterprise Windows software development, and he called it Windows DNA. And it was basically just 3-tier Windows development. So with a backend, a middleware, and a front end, strictly separated in layers. So the term backend developer, we had that in 1990. So that's 28 years ago. So if you're a backend developer right now, it's a very mature and very evolved field, and the planet is packed with backend developers. So you're competing with a lot of people. If you're a generic developer, so everybody who put generic in the chat, be careful, because there are millions of generic developers all over the world, and we're all competing nowadays with each other over the internet. So it's a tough domain to be in. Now, if you're a web developer, things are getting better. I mean, like web, Node.js, and all the cool frameworks like Angular, awesome. But web developer is getting pretty popular, quite popular now. So web developer used to be blue ocean, but it's being pushed into red. Mobile developer is slightly better because we haven't had mobile devices for that long, but it's also starting to shift. Mobile development, I think 5 years ago, was guaranteed ticket to wealth. If you were an iOS developer 5 years ago, You could pick and choose your projects. You could pick your salary. It was just insane. Unfortunately, nowadays, there are so many mobile developers that it's getting harder. It's still a good job. In the US, in Silicon Valley, a mobile developer earns $90,000 per year. 90,000 per year. So it's not bad. It's you can still make a good living, but it's moving into the red. So be careful with that one. Now, if you look at the blue ocean, there are some specializations that are brand spanking new. They are so new that the ocean is completely blue. There are projects and there are almost no developers, like big data. Big data is fairly new because the cloud and these super large cloud databases, like a thing like Hadoop, hasn't been on the market for that long. So there are Hadoop specialists in the market, but not that many. So if you can become fluent in Hadoop in, say, 1 year, so 2019, you'll enter the market as a Hadoop specialist, you've got a pretty good run ahead of you. I think you'll have 10 years of career happiness. Even better is IoT, Internet of Things, like the Raspberry Pi was released not that long ago. These microcomputers, these tiny, fully functional computers that cost $5. We only have them since a few years. So if you focus on IoT, then you're going to have a pretty nice career. And absolutely perfect right now is AI and machine learning, because it's slowly moving from academia into the business world. And we're now at this unique point where everybody in business wants AI. They don't understand it, but everybody wants it. And all the top AI people have been hired by Facebook, by Google, and by Apple, and by China. China has this awesome deal. You can relocate to Beijing and they'll pay for everything if you are good enough in AI. So you can live happily in China with an awesome salary. Unfortunately, you need to be at top academic level for that. So, I mean, I don't qualify. That's why I'm in Barcelona, not in Beijing right now. But I'm just saying that the market for AI is pretty awesome right now. So that's an interesting niche to consider. So when I'm looking at the chat, Yoav, he says, what about the cloud? Where would you put the cloud? So the cloud is an enabling technology. The cloud enables big data and AI. So if you're a cloud specialist, I would definitely put it in the blue ocean. Cloud is fairly new. There are a lot of companies that still have on-site servers, on-site computers, and they still have to move to the cloud. I mean, you'd think it's unbelievable that everybody's in the cloud right now, but it's not. Like many companies still are on site and they need this migration. So if you're an Azure specialist or an AWS specialist, that's pretty good. I give it another 5 to 10 years and then it'll probably be saturated. But for now, you can definitely do cool things in the cloud. But if you're in AI and machine learning or big data, then you will be in the cloud every day, because these big data databases, they can only exist in the cloud because they're terabytes in size. I mean, it wouldn't fit in an office. And machine learning is all about training neural networks. And to do that, you need these massive grids of GPUs. And they're also all hosted in the cloud. So you often train your models in the cloud. So, yeah, so Hector says, outside of large metropolitan areas is where you find a lot of companies that are still living with on-premise systems. That's true. So this migration to the cloud is still ongoing. So yeah, cloud, yeah, good one. Let me tell you an anecdote. In it was 2003, I think, 2003, 2004. I got a phone call. I was a trainer. I had my Microsoft certified trainer certificate. So I did classroom trainings. And I got a call from one of my training institutes that I worked for. And the guy, the CEO, he asked me, can you do a BizTalk training? I said, no. I said, I have no idea how BizTalk works. I don't know what it is. And I can't do it. I can't do it. And he said, yeah, well, I have nobody. So I'm in a kind of a blind here. So he said, tell you what, I'm going to send you the book, the BizTalk book by mail. And if I give you 1 week, do you think you could do a good job? So I was like, oh my God, you know? So I said, woo, I might screw it up completely. And he said, well, that's okay. I have no one else. So, just give it your best shot. So I studied like crazy for a week. then I did the BizTalk training, and it went pretty well because the students in my class, they didn't actually know anything about BizTalk. So they didn't ask me any complicated questions. But then a really weird thing happened. From then onwards, for the next 5 years, I was in the Netherlands, and in all of the Netherlands, there were only 2 BizTalk trainers, only 2. So there were consultants who could actually deploy BizTalk, but there were only 2 people who could give BizTalk in a classroom training. So any training institute in Holland, and there are a lot, that wanted to host a BizTalk training, they had no choice. They had to call the other guy or call me. So for 5 years, I had this steady stream of training income that just kept coming and coming and coming because I was in this blue ocean. And there were so few people in the ocean that all the companies had to go to me. And I can tell you, if you're in that position, it is awesome. You have job security you wouldn't believe. So I really urge you guys to seek out a niche and specialize in a niche, something that's not too popular right now, not too many people doing it, but there are enough projects that you can do, that you can have a nice living, and specialize in that. Because it's the one strategy that will elevate your career from senior developer and make sure that you future-proof your career for decades to come. So to give you a little teaser here, I did a little research, like what do machine learning developers earn? So I looked at Glassdoor, which is a database of salaries. So I looked at the US, and so get this, the average salary of a machine learning engineer is $118,000 per year. 118,000. The average salary of a general software developer is 70,000. So you almost double your income by specializing in machine learning. It's unbelievable. And CTO salary in the US starts at 120,000. So if you are a machine learning engineer and you earn slightly more than the average, then you are actually earning more than CTOs at the lowest point of their salary scale. It's unbelievable. You're a software developer and you're just working with neural networks, and you are out earning a CTO. And the reason is companies want machine learning, but there aren't enough developers. So that drives up their salaries. So it's a fantastic market to be in. So I urge you to seek out these niches. So let's do another quick survey on the chat. Having learned this, the blue ocean and the red ocean, what kind of niche would you like to specialize in? So just put it on the chat. So I'll give the correct example again. I'll put in machine learning because that's my thing. Here we go. So Hector, big data developer, awesome, like that. John says IoT, cool. How do you pronounce that? Machine learning by DKA, I can't pronounce that. Nelson, web development. Nelson, yeah, you can do that, but be quick because it's moving to the red. Brandon, all right, Brandon, nice. So Brandon, machine learning, good choice. Thiago, AI and cloud, good choice, I like that. Chihu, big data and ML, yeah, good. Neil, Azure, so cloud, good. Hector, I was actually a data wrangler for a new data science team for one of the unicorns in my state. That's why I picked big data. Oh, fantastic. Stick with it. Keep doing that. Big data is awesome right now. Actually, big data is machine learning. I mean, machine learning is now accelerating because we have these huge data sets that we can train neural networks on. So big data actually enables machine learning. So they're very tightly connected. Sebastian, Azure and .NET Core. Yeah, .NET Core is nice. It's like, you know, the new cross-platform .NET on Linux, on Mac, on Windows. Good stuff. So I'll give you a quick rundown of machine learning. So machine learning is a blue ocean niche. So there is high demand and low availability of developers. So that drives up the salaries. The salary is twice as high, almost twice as high as that of an average software developer. You're safe from outsourcing because, I mean, who would you outsource it to? There are so few machine learning experts. It's a very exciting field. There are like breakthroughs every day. and you get the chance to do meaningful work. Because machine learning is kind of cool because there are a lot of applications that really help people. For example, a couple of weeks ago, I built an app in 200 lines of C# code that looks out of a live camera feed and describes what it sees. So you could put this, like you could put a camera on a pair of glasses, and a blind person could wear these glasses and walk through the street, and there would be a constant narration in the ear, like, in the headset of this person. Like, you're walking through a busy street with people, you see a car in front of you, you are standing in front of a shop, you are standing in front of a person, the shopkeeper, and so on. So a blind person could really be helped navigating a city by having this AI assistant constantly talking about what's in front of them right now. I built that app in 200 lines of code. We can do that right now. So this is awesome. So there's really a chance to do exciting and meaningful work. So Amit Kumar, yeah, I see on the chat your specialization is .NET. Be careful, because there are many .NET developers all over the world. So globalization is going to hurt you there. So it's okay that you work on .NET, like really work on your .NET skills, but this is foundation, and build a niche on top of that foundation.
Actually, I love that. There is another question by Neil Kane. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, because I was going to say the same thing. I think machine learning to a lot of people is something that it's so complicated that they just don't touch it. And what would you say to the people who think like that?
Not true. So the problem with machine learning is it's very academic right now. So all the activity in machine learning is happening in universities and with the top engineers at Facebook and Google. So the math knowledge required to follow that research along is quite intimidating. However, the basic principle behind the neural network is super simple. I could teach you the mathematics behind a neural network, a deep neural network, in an hour, easily, and you would get it. It's super simple. So I think people are making it too complicated. I think that machine learning, a lot of courses, people just can't explain things correctly. I did a Google machine learning introduction course to get up to speed with TensorFlow, because my specialization is C# and .NET. So I thought, I want to learn Python and TensorFlow. So I did this Google course. So I have this Google course, and I see these Google engineers explaining machine learning to me. I was like, oh my God, can you please rephrase that so to make it simpler? Because it's not complicated things that they are talking about, but they make it so complicated by using jargon or convoluted terminology. It's no need for that. So I can teach you machine learning, and you would understand the math, and you would be able to use machine learning. Because there's another aspect of machine learning that's very important. There are two parts in machine learning. There is training. No, there's three parts. First part is designing the neural networks. So creating the neural network architecture to learn, to have a computer learn specific skills. That's one. Second one is train the neural network. And the third is use the neural network. All the complex math is in the architecture part, creating these neural network architectures that are specialized for certain learning domains. However, you can be a star in machine learning by simply reusing the pre-existing architectures that other people have already invented. And that's one of the things I like to focus on. I like to train people into reusing existing architectures. And then it's super simple. It's like using libraries, You use a library, you figure out the API, you figure out how to train the library and use the library, and there's not a lot of math involved in getting it to work, and it's all practical, hands-on experience. And creating these neural nets, that's complicated, and you're probably going to need like an academic career in mathematics and computer science to do that well. But we don't all have to be architecture inventors. There is a lot of room in this market for people who simply use what's already been invented. And that's what I like to specialize on. So obviously this webinar ends in a little pitch. I'm working on a machine learning course. So I see a couple of questions in the chat. how to learn machine learning, even if you're not, if you're a developer not specialized in that field. So I'm working on this course. It'll start in the last week of October. It's called the Machine Learning Advantage, and you can pre-register right now. So if you go to my website, mdfaragher.com, then you see this beautiful landing page I made today. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's this little form. If you leave your email address, then you're not paying for anything, you're not ordering anything, you just go on a mailing list, and then I'll keep you in the loop on the Machine Learning Advantage course, and I'll let you know when we open, when we pre-register, etc., etc. So Neil asks, Mark, your site is on HTTP. My SSL certificate is glitching, so it works on some parts of the site and it doesn't work on other parts of the site. So give it a shot. If it doesn't work, you have to go down to HTTP. Sorry about that. I hope to fix that soon. It's a WordPress hosting issue. So if you're interested in machine learning, just go to So Sonsoles put the link in the chat. So just click on the link, go to the site, and drop your email address, and I'll keep you in the loop. And so this course, it will focus on an extremely hands-on introduction to machine learning in C# and .NET. So we might do some Python, but the main focus will be C# and .NET, and it's going to be extremely hands-on. So you will be building machine learning apps from day one, and I will focus mostly on using existing machine learning architectures. So like using a convolutional neural net instead of going behind the whole theory, like what is convolution, how does it work, and what's the mathematical formulas behind it. I mean, you can study that in your own time if you want. I prefer to focus on, like, let's grab this convolutional neural network off the shelf, train it to do something awesome, and write some code from day one. So Nelson asks, C# is the base of machine learning? Yeah, so yeah, the course will use C# and .NET. Maybe I'll throw in some TensorFlow. If you leave your email address, we can do a little survey. I can ask you guys for some, what kind of topics you would like to have. And we can add some Python if you like, Python and TensorFlow. Yeah, so Hector says, everything I've been reading uses Python. Yeah, every machine learning course out there is Python. It's always Python and TensorFlow. And I'll let you in on a secret. Python is slow. TensorFlow is so incredibly slow, you wouldn't believe. You can speed it up by compiling it, but interpreted Python is just terrible. And Microsoft has this beautiful machine learning engine called WinML, and it blows TensorFlow out of the water. It is so much faster, you wouldn't believe. So why on earth would you use Python on a Windows platform? It makes no sense. So we're going to focus on .NET, C#, and the Microsoft machine learning components, which are awesome. So the name, Hector, the name of the Microsoft engine is WinML. Windows ML, WinML, Windows Machine Learning. It's part of .NET Core 3.0. So that hasn't been released yet, but once it's out, WinML will be in there. So yeah, guys, so feel free to sign up, and I'll let you know how this course develops. So we start in the last week of October, and it will be a 5-week program. And I'll take you from beginner to experienced hands-on Microsoft machine learning developer. How does that sound? That'll get you jobs. All right, so whoops, that brings us to the end of the webinar. So I've been pitching my course, but let's not forget Sonsoles delegation and communication support as well. Remember, soft skills are absolutely key in taking your career to the senior developer level. Getting noticed and getting the projects, getting noticed by the decision makers. So Sonsoles, maybe you can put the link in the chat again, so we have it at the bottom of the history. So if you're interested in improving your communication skills or improving your delegation skills, or both, within the context of leadership, click the link. Click Sonsoles' link. It'll take you to a messenger page, and then just name your preference. So just say, I'm interested in delegation, I'm interested in communication, or say, I'm interested in delegation and communication, or anything else. If you have like this huge problem and you want to help you with that, put it in Messenger, and she'll take it from there.
Okay.
So what do you say, Sonsoles?
I just want to say that, yeah, we have been doing this for 1 hour and a half.
Oui.
And,
see it.
it was supposed to be initially 1 hour, but
time flies.
So, but we did promise everyone that you would answer questions. So I see that there are still enough people listening to us. So what do you suggest? Shall we take like 2 questions or so?
No, let's take 5 questions.
5?
Yeah, let's take 5 questions. So
okay.
Put your questions in the chat. So I've got the chat open right now. Anything you'd like to ask? So if you've asked something in the chat and I haven't answered yet, put it in again so I can focus on what appears right now. So exactly. Anything about software career, about machine learning, about leadership, ask me now. Okay, first question. What can be a good step to start to be a machine learning developer if you're currently a web developer? That's a good question. What you could do, that's how I started, you could look at a library called accord.net. Accord.net. It's actually more data science than machine learning, but it has some simple, some very uncomplicated machine learning components like deep neural networks and a perceptron. And they're really easy to set up and to play with, and there are tons of examples. So I'd say start with that. Accord cannot do convolutional neural networks or adversarial neural networks or these complicated neural net architectures that people are working with today, but it will give you a good foundation. We'll look at Accord in the course as well, but if you want to get a running start, check that out. So that was Roberto. Next question. From Chihu. Machine learning dev versus data scientist. As most of the time, I see a single person do both roles. Yes, I believe they are separate roles. If you look at the skill set that you need for machine learning and data science, they are really starting to diverge right now. And the reason is, in the past, we didn't have neural nets. We only had statistical tools. We had decision trees, we had clustering algorithms, we had support vector machines, and these are all little mathematical tools that you can use to perform data analysis. But then we had neural networks. Actually, neural networks were invented like years ago, in the 70s, I think. But now with the cloud, we finally have the computing power to create this really huge neural networks and train them on terabytes of data. And that has completely taken off. And these neural nets are now much better than the old data science algorithms. So this is where the 2 fields are starting to branch. So you can see machine learning is 90% neural networks. And data science is pretty much still the more legacy stuff, the existing statistical algorithms. So you can see that data science is mostly working on data sets and trying to extract information from that. Whereas machine learning is training software to interpret live data and make intelligent decisions based on that. So I see them as diverging. Both careers are fine right now. You're solidly in the blue ocean with good income and good protection from outsourcing. So you can choose, pick the one you like. And we see that one person does both right now. That will change eventually. I predict that the field will split. So that was Chihu. Sebastian, I'm mainly a .NET desktop application developer. Do you think that it still makes sense to invest time in desktop application development or more away from desktop development? Good question. Good question. It all depends on what's going to happen with the desktop. I think we're going to have a desktop for the foreseeable future. An interesting field to go in right now, believe it or not, is UWP. Universal Windows Platform, because I tried actually developing a UWP application. I gave up because you need the latest version of Visual Studio and the latest version of the .NET SDK. So absolutely bleeding edge version. Any lower version and you can't even build or deploy your application. So there aren't many people working on UWP yet. So it's an interesting field to be in. Plus UWP application will run on Windows 10 on the desktop. It will run on mobile devices, but it will also run on HoloLens. And if you ask my prediction, like what's the dominant user interface going to be in the future, then I'm going to say augmented reality. So we all wear glasses and we see the UI projected in front of us. And UWP gives you the opportunity to start experimenting with that platform right now. Plus, you get to do desktop applications. So it's a nice broad field to be in. So you can definitely look at that. John, what do you think about Electron as a viable alternative to building traditional .NET applications? Electron is awesome, definitely. All the big companies are using it. Skype, the Skype desktop application, partially uses Electron. Visual Studio Code partly uses Electron. It's amazing. Electron is in all these big applications. So yeah, definitely check that out. But it's JavaScript and HTML, so you're moving away from the .NET ecosystem. So you can do that, but then your skills will broaden. You're still going to need .NET and C# to build the middleware and the backend, the service API, but you'll need your new skills to build Electron applications. So you can do it. I wouldn't put it in blue ocean. I put it in purple ocean, between red and blue. And yeah, you're basically diverging your skill set. If you decide to specialize on UI, user interfaces, then yeah, do Electron. So let's see. I said 5 questions, so we got 2 questions. So I'm going to pick one of the 2. Yeah. So I'll take the last one. Currently, I am a full-stack .NET developer. Based on your earlier comments about specialization, do you think it is a good idea to focus on being proficient across the full stack? Good question. Yeah, but it's not enough. Yeah, be proficient across the full stack. I am proficient across the full .NET stack. And I mean, I built that up over a period of 15 years. But I'm specialized in machine learning because that's the lucrative niche where all the money is right now. So I would say being proficient across the full stack gives you an awesome foundation to stack a niche on, to put a niche on top of that foundation. So I invite you to pick a niche. So make sure you stay proficient and advertise that. Say, hey, I know the full .NET stack, so throw anything at me, I know it. But also pick a niche. And that combination is killer. That is really going to help you. All right, so we've been talking for 1 hour and 37 minutes. So that's quite long. So I suggest we wrap it up. So remember, if you're interested in the machine learning course, go to mdfarragut.com, click the link in the chat, and sign up. Just leave your email address, and I'll keep you in the loop. If you want to work on your leadership skills, specifically your communication and delegation skills, then click on Sonsoles' link in the chat. Go to Messenger and tell her what you are most interested in, and she'll take it from there. And if you look at this slide right here, these are all the different ways that you can contact me. So the one in bold is my Facebook page. I have this Facebook page called C# Architects, which is all about doing cool stuff in C#. So if you want to hang out there and chat with me, that's all good. So go there, follow the page, like the page, and if you post something, I try to reply as quickly as possible. So that's your easiest channel to get in touch with me. I'm also on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, and you can even send me emails. But keep in mind, I'm a bit of a millennial, even though I'm 48. So email, that might take 12 hours or 24 hours before you get a reply, because I'm mostly focused on Facebook and other social media channels right now. But you know, feel free to contact me. And let me quickly scroll back to this slide that I told you that I would be getting back to. This is Sonsoles, and this is where you can reach Sonsoles. So Sonsoles, walk our viewers through this list.
Oh, wait, I see some love coming in through the chat, so I'm a bit distracted. I see people saying, thanks, Mark. It was awesome and very important webinar. Thanks a lot to both of you, Mark and Sonsoles. Then there's Carl who says, thanks, both. Thanks for your time, Sonsoles, Mark. This is so great to hear. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So,
Wow.
yeah. So if you want to stay in touch, yeah, you can follow me through. You can get in touch with me also through my page. I am not as old as Mark, but I'm also kind of a millennial. I also don't like email very much. So Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, those are quicker ways to reach me. So yeah, feel free to choose any of those channels and shoot me any question that you might have. I'll be happy to help you. So and if you feel like leaving more love for us, like you are doing still in the chat. Thanks, Mark and Sonsoles, really helpful webinar. Thank you, Hector.
Thank you, Hector.
If you would like to, Nelson, thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you, Nelson.
Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you, Nelson.
If you would like to leave some more love, Mark has been streaming this webinar over via his Facebook page. So if you would like to leave some comments in there or some likes or loves or whatever, that would be pretty great. So thank you, Mark, for having me, and thank you, you audience. You have been awesome. The chat has been absolutely great.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Ooh, so Joaf has put Sonsoles' Facebook page as a link in the chat. Fantastic.
Thank you, Joaf. Thank you.
You don't even have to type the URL anymore. You can just click on the link. So okay, so everybody who's still listening, that's 26 people. Everybody go to Sonsoles' page and give her a follow. Give her a like and a follow. It is long, yeah, you're right. So Joaf says the link is long, yeah, that's correct. So thank God we can click now.
I'll make it shorter when I'm famous. Well, how about that? Just Sonsoles.
All right, so thank you, everyone. Stay tuned for updates. I'm probably going to do more webinars. I'm going to do more mailings in the future. So stay tuned for cool updates between now and the end of October. All right, so thanks everybody, you've been awesome. Thank you, Sonsoles, for agreeing to co-host this webinar with me. And I hope to be seeing you all soon online.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.